What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Dustin Poirier reveals big news. After being knocked out by Justin Gaethje in their highly anticipated UFC 291 BMF title fight, Dustin Poirier explained that he still feels as though he's a better fighter than the highlight. Now, with the dust settled in the wake of the loss, Poirier has taken to Twitter to reveal that he has his sights set on making the jump to the 170-pound division. In the early hours of Sunday morning, Poirier tweeted, "Okay, I'll move up," seemingly indicating that he has set his sights on making a run in the welterweight division. Shortly after Poirier made the post, streaking contender Shavkat Rakhmonov responded, simply writing, "Okay." Rakhmonov, of course, is currently in search of a replacement opponent for Noche UFC on September 16th. While he was originally scheduled to compete against Kelvin Gastelum, the former Ultimate Fighter winner has been forced out of the bout after suffering an injury in training. After being knocked out, the September 16th date may be a bit soon for Poirier. However, if the UFC winds up failing to find a replacement opponent for Rakhmonov, they could end up pulling him from the card and scheduling a bout with Poirier for a later date in the event that Poirier isn't ready to return. Following his loss to Justin Gaethje, who do you want to see Dustin Poirier compete against? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Dana White fuming over Musk versus Zuckerberg fight? After leading the way as one of the driving forces behind a potential clash between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, the UFC president Dana White may not be pleased to find out that the Tesla founder seems to be maneuvering to cut him out. While there hadn't been any updates from White regarding the potential fight between the two billionaires, Musk recently took to social media to drop an update, saying that a fight between he and Zuckerberg will be live streamed on his recently rebranded X platform, with all proceeds going to charity for veterans. So far, there's been no updates beyond the cryptic tweet. However, the controversial businessman has shown an eagerness to make live video streaming a big part of the platform. Given that both Instagram and Facebook have live streaming capabilities, it's unknown whether or not the Meta CEO would be willing to host a fight on Musk's platform. Fans were quick to reply, providing some hilarious responses, with one fan writing, "Dana White having a heart attack wondering if Zuck and Musk won't include him, lol," and another fan simply writing, "Dana fuming right now." Another fan provided an interesting perspective, predicting that the fight between the two would actually be contested between two holograms, with plenty of theories circulating. Only time will tell whether or not this fight actually comes to fruition. UFC announces new fight. UFC Vegas 80 on October 7th received an exciting addition this weekend, with reports surfacing that Johnny Munoz Jr. would be competing against Aoriqi Lang. The card, which currently does not have a main event announced yet, is expected to take place at the Apex, with more fights expected to be announced in the weeks to come. The bout will see Johnny Munoz Jr. look to bounce back from a June loss to Daniel Santos that returned him to the loss column after a win over Ludwig Sholinian to close out 2022. On the flip side, Aoriqi Lang will be looking to return to the win column in a big way after being TKO'd by Ayman Zahabi back in June. The loss dropped his UFC record to 2-3, potentially putting him in a must-win situation heading into this fight. So far, in addition to the latest fight, the card is expected to feature a lightweight clash between Drew Dober and Ricky Glenn, a women's strawweight clash between Kanako Murata and Vanessa Demopoulos, and a featherweight clash between Bill Algeo and Alexander Hernandez. With the event just over 2 months away, expect the UFC to continue adding fights to the card in the weeks to come. Daniel Cormier sends message to Tony Ferguson. After his recent loss to Bobby Green, former UFC interim lightweight champion Tony Ferguson is seemingly undeterred from returning to the win column, citing an eye poke as one of the major contributing factors in the loss. With 6 straight losses to his name, Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier believes that despite losing to talented fighters, it may be time for Ferguson to either look for a step down in competition or take his talents to another promotion entirely. During a recent episode of his DC and RC show, the former 2-division champion stated,
5 fights for the title. That was his catch line all week, but now he's lost 6 in a row. Look, man, this guy's not losing to terrible fighters. He has lost to Diaz, Chandler, Dariush, Oliveira, Gaethje, and Bobby Green now. But the reality is, he's 39 years old, and while he still has a ton of heart and fight, it just does not seem like his body is allowing him to do everything that his mind is telling him to do.
Although he certainly has plenty of support throughout the MMA community, only time will tell what the future holds for Tony Ferguson. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Cory Sandhagen responds to backlash. In the main event of UFC Fight Night Nashville, streaking contender Cory Sandhagen put on an absolute masterclass against Rob Font, taking the fight to the ground repeatedly en route to a lopsided decision win. While Font received plenty of praise from the MMA community for stepping in on short notice after Umar Nurmagomedov was forced out of the bout, Sandhagen received quite a bit of criticism for the way he went about getting the win. As Sandhagen explained to Hall of Famer Michael Bisping after the fight, he suffered a torn tricep early on in the fight that forced him to adapt. In the wake of the bout, the Sandman has now addressed the backlash from the MMA community regarding his grappling-heavy game plan. In a post he made on Instagram, Sandhagen spoke about the fight and addressed the criticism from fans, writing in part, "Different kind of masterclass. Don't hate me. He wasn't really doing much for me to work with while on top. I hurt my elbow, maybe a tricep, pretty bad after the first somehow, and didn't want to throw it and make it worse because it felt serious. That's why I didn't feel comfortable opening up or taking more risk. I still love you even if you hate me now." In addition, Sandhagen also showed footage of his elbow after the fight, indicating that he was likely spot on when he revealed a serious injury that occurred early on in the fight. With his sights set on the winner of the upcoming UFC 292 clash between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley, it seems as though that once Sandhagen heals up, he could wind up right in the mix for a crack at the bantamweight title. Conor McGregor slams Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. After expressing how unimpressed he was with the quality of Jake Paul and Nate Diaz's boxing match on Saturday night, former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor went at Jake Paul and Nate Diaz the following day, ripping the Stockton superstar and the YouTuber turned boxer in a series of tweets that sparked a full-on back and forth. McGregor started things off by addressing Nate Diaz, who famously pointed and laughed at Leon Edwards late in their UFC 263 fight rather than swarming in for the finish, writing, "People's champ, I'm gonna say this now. Them antics, when it's time to move, ain't hitting for me no more. I've seen him point, I've seen him turn, walk away, etc, etc. It's stale now. Do something, cause you're doing nothing. Could have been the 170-pound UFC champion. Wasted it. You're doing f*** all." In a follow-up tweet, McGregor vowed to manhandle Diaz in a trilogy fight, writing, "I'm gonna silver up your liver on a sandwich in the trilogy, mate, out straight. I won't even hit your face. That was abysmal last night. Paul is absolute garbage he is. Moving backwards like I was watching a fight in rewind. Holy garbage. Embarrassing stuff all around in my opinion. Hashtag piss." In a third tweet, McGregor referenced rumors that Diaz hooked up with Ronda Rousey years prior, writing, "Try point and walk away from me. I'm gonna run at you and root you up the hole. Ronda messaged me, said you're a do-nothing." The tweets earned a response from Jake Paul, who referenced a number of McGregor's losses while also making a point to mention McGregor's ongoing standoff with USADA, writing, "Buddy, you need to get into rehab and then USADA. Until then, shut the f*** up. Floyd toyed with you. Dustin chinned you up. Habib and Nate choked you out, and I would put you in the coffin for good even as juiced up as you are." McGregor was quick to respond to the tweet, writing, "Shut up you little baldy," while also tweeting a picture from his fight with Floyd Mayweather in a separate tweet, along with the caption, "Me watching that garbage last night. What the f*** and sh** in the ring." Stay tuned for updates on this beef as it continues to unfold. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have the MMA community going off on Conor McGregor. Recently on Twitter, Conor McGregor went on a rant about Jake Paul where he called him a retard and fans didn't take it too lightly. Jake Paul responded by saying, "I see people bent out of shape because McGregor called me a It's the fight game. I don't give a fuck about what a coked out, juiced up, shitty cheap whiskey drinking fool says and then deletes. He's a selfish, self-centered, salty addict who hasn't done anything for other fighters." A fan responded with, "I need clarification for my fellow black community. Is Conor allowed to say does he get a pass? I'm confused." Another fan said, "Yep, Conor has lost it. Shame to see such a legend spiral like this." And another fan responded with, "The UFC probably won't do anything about Conor McGregor's most recent tweet and delete spree, and that's a damn shame. Neither Paul nor Diaz deserve that. And let's be honest, the UFC dropped the ball when it failed to make McGregor Diaz 3 after UFC 229. In 2023, that's dead." What do you think of this situation? Should Conor McGregor receive backlash for these words to Jake Paul? Or is it just part of the fight game? Let us know in the comments below.